You had talked about the men 50, 60, whatever, who are losing their purpose. And we've seen in Europe and in Asia and in other places like that, they are jumping off buildings and committing suicide because they no longer feel that they have a purpose.
You know, that's interesting you would say that. There's a telecommunication company in France, and this can be tracked on the internet, and I've been tracking it. And in that situation, it is always and only the reason to be alive is to get them deals. And if you do not pull off somehow the amount of numbers that they're demanding that you get, they have a whole system of disgrace and humiliation. They have transferred to the other departments and make that public because that's the department of shame. They have a customer service department that when people call and say, my cell phone doesn't work, you listen until sound stops and sell them something else. And if you do not accomplish selling them something else, you then get disgraced and humiliated. It's only about numbers. It's quite shocking. And so I started tracking this in 2009 and watching year after year the suicide rates are escalating. Because when you take a magnificence of a human being and you reduce them to a machine, see, that's machine age methodology. Hurry, put the tire on the car. Do you see? Hurry up, because if I can get 3.5 hours, I make more money. And then you get paid if you get me 3. So when you, first of all, when you put that ideology and methodology on a human being who's wired to contribute and make a difference, you collapse all their power. You collapse all their potential. You collapse all the potential of fulfillment, satisfaction, and a good job done today. Because today, in our consciousness, that's what Fred Kaufman calls conscious business. Dr. Sisodia calls it conscious capitalism. You see, consciousness is awareness. Awareness means what's my impact on another? And you want the impact to contribute to the well-being, that they're better off because you were there. And you force a human being to operate in the opposite of how we're wired. No, you're just there to take things off of people. It's the opposite of how we're designed. At some point, there is such a collapse of a sense of self-worth, a sense of well-being, a sense of empowerment. I call it driving a Rolls Royce in reverse. It'll run for a while, but it will not run as much as it will being run in a way that it's designed to run, which is forward, you see. The depression level is serious. In any dynamic that you're forcing people to operate in the opposite of how we're designed as a human being, you're only to take things off of people. And if you don't get 35 of them to give you their money, then you don't work here anymore. As a way to make people productive does not work. So when I'm working with the senior management and organizations, I explain to them, what is it you want? Well, what do you want? Well, we want 100,000 of something. Okay, well, the dynamics present to accomplish 100,000 of something is to empower the very people that want to give it to you. You see? So you want to manifest a fuller potential inside of them. And when that happens, so much comes from them and they give it to you. Happy to, you see? Because it's about creating an environment for people to be able to grow and contribute. And when that happens, you give someone a forum to do that, the company makes more than they even set a goal to accomplish. I did an event, I did a consulting project, quick story, consulting project in a city that was impacted profoundly in 2006, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And they had 23 offices and many, many families. That was Thanksgiving approaching Christmas, where the company was going to be closed down. And the headquartered in another state were coming out there. And so several of the salespeople actually attended an event I did in Scottsdale and asked would I please come and help their company. So I met with the president and the top people, the management of all departments and such. And it really was about sizing up what customer do you want? Let's say, who is that? The second question is, what would be of value to them? The question together with what would be of value to them is what's going on with them as human beings. Let's set the concept of the transaction aside. What's going on with them? Well, what's going on with them is they were scared to death about the market. What are they going to do? They're going to lose their own homes. Some of them are single mothers and so on and so forth. When we had the conversation about the humanity of this, like what's going on with the people you're about to talk to that can produce transactions for you, well, they're in fear. And fear of what? Homelessness. Are you kidding me? So if those are the people that your business is coming from, what would be the logical way to resolve that situation would be to help them become more productive. So we're going to do an experiment. 90 days, we're going to go out into the world and talk to people that have worked with us for a very long time. And we're not going to ask them for any transaction at all. It's experiment. What we're going to do is approach them and say, if we were to be of value to you, what would that look like? And for the most part, they were discouraged. So what's involved in encouraging? Giving them tools and skills to be able to go produce more opportunity from a place of empowerment. So I did seminars and events and all of that. The first day, number one day, happened to be New Year's Eve on a Friday before 2008. The president at the end of that day sent an email to the whole company, word for word, it's like a miracle. Today, we had our number one open order count ever in our 10-year history today. That's the geometric progression we were talking about earlier. It's a multiplication that multiplies on itself and so forth in a moment. That company got written up in the newspaper as the the voice of hope, the only voice of hope in Maricopa County is what happened. And then we had the record-breaking day again and again and again in the new year. And it was like a phenomenon where then the ownership came out from another state and said, what's going on out here? This happens again and again. In coaching, I can't tell you how many spouses call me. Go, what did you do to my husband? What did you do to my wife? It's like an awakening that is so longed for. And what are they longing for? A sense of fulfillment and making a difference, that their life mattered because they made something better. And that's what value exchange dynamics is in a business setting.